The modern Slovak Republic was founded in the beginning of 1993, after decades of communist rule. The foreign policy goals of the newly established state were clear to many foreign observers. They wanted Slovakia to enter the Western sphere of influence and establish their country alongside other modern democratic nations. These goals were like nearly all post-Soviet states across Central and Eastern Europe, following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. In fact, these goals were shared by all Slovak political parties in the years following independence. To become part of the new Europe being formed, Slovakia needed to join the European Union. The EU would ensure access to the single market and would pull Slovakia closer both economically and politically with Western Europe. Becoming members of this organization was the main priority for the country throughout the 1990s and was widely supported by the public. Pro-Western views were dominant in Slovakian public life, and there was enthusiasm for the adoption of a more democratic and capitalist government policy. This goal dictated the current country's foreign policy well into the 2000s, and the government faced many challenges throughout the process. The first blow came during the 1993 to 1997 period. However, this failure was largely out of Slovakia's control. Both the European Union and NATO decided not to include Slovakia in its candidacy for expansion in 1997, a decision largely out of the new nation's hands. However, it did not help that during the first 3 governments, there were 7 different ministers of the foreign offices in just 6 years. This inevitably created an atmosphere of instability within the government, as well as a failure to follow a consistent plan for membership. Instead, the leaderships were constantly shifting due to inner turmoil within the government. But the struggle for membership continued. Slovakia grew their ties with both organizations in the coming years after the 1998 elections, which saw a dramatic shift in governance. A large diplomatic offensive began and continued until 2004, when Slovakia joined the EU along with Hungary, Czech Republic and Poland, after a public vote was held in 2003. This vote saw a landslide victory for EU membership, with 93% of the country voting yes. To date, it is the only major referendum to not have failed due to low voter turnout. Since 2004, Slovakia has enjoyed the benefits of membership. While behind its neighbours Poland and the Czech Republic in the Prosperity Index, the nation has outperformed many other post-communist states in the region. It has allowed them to outperform highly developed countries such as the UK in education, being ranked 26th in the world. And it has allowed the country to enter the Eurozone, officially adopting the Euro in 2009. However, there are growing issues relating to EU membership that will influence future foreign policy goals. For example, Euroscepticism has been growing in recent years amongst the public. Slovakia now has the second highest rate of distrust towards the EU after France, at 57%. In the last year alone, the number of people with a negative view of the Union has grown by 7%. This may one day lead to a majority of the public wanting to leave altogether. A new poll, in 2023 that is, found that if a vote was held today, 36% of people would vote to leave the European Union. This is a huge change, as 93% voted to join it just 19 years ago. The possibility of a hard Eurosceptic government one day organising such a vote is possible. A cause for this shift is the growing political apathy in Slovakian society. When independence was achieved in 1993, political engagement was at an all-time high in the country. Since the 2000s, however, there has been a reversal of this trend. Voter turnout in the country has been decreasing steadily over the past 2 decades, both in parliamentary elections as well as EU elections. In fact, Slovakia had the lowest voter turnout for the 2019 EU elections in the Union. Indeed, the last referendum on an issue to poll over 50% of the public was the vote on EU membership in 2004. Even looking beyond EU-related referendums, turnout is incredibly low. In 2018, only 21% of people voted on the protection of traditional family values, even though there was extensive political discourse on the topic. Turnout did not even reach half of what was needed to validate the vote. A reason for such political apathy is the perceived shortcomings of the post-communist state. Some in the country feel that Slovakia has not experienced the prosperity that was offered to them by joining the Western world. While Slovakia has improved dramatically when it comes to personal freedoms, the economic prosperity that was expected has not been felt as dramatically as some hoped. This is compounded by corruption within the government. The state is viewed by many as extensively corrupt, especially following the murder of journalist Jan Kuciak, who in 2018 exposed links between the mafia and several politicians. The murder triggered the biggest protests Slovakia has witnessed since communist times. One can understand why so many Slovakians have become apathetic to this political system. Such political apathy, however, is dangerous. It allows for populists to take control as people become disillusioned with the establishment parties. Civil society, which is needed to keep the government in check, disappears, and anti-democratic strongmen, leaders, enter office. Slovakia has been experiencing this shift, and it will likely be accelerated in the coming years under Fico. This directly threatens Slovakia's membership of the EU, and it is fair to expect their relationship to become increasingly strained in the coming years. That's all for today, guys, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time.